Today for this local procurement webinar. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to allow food service directors from some schools who are part of our grant program and food service directors from schools that have been doing local procurement and farm to school activities for a while to share their experiences and to maybe answer some questions that you guys are best aligned to answer rather than me. I'm still learning in this space along with a lot of our grantees. So I'm really excited for this discussion today. Just, I guess, one housekeeping thing. I know we've all been on Zoom for almost 18 months now, or some version of it, but if we could all stay muted when we're not talking, that will be helpful for anybody who has any trouble hearing with background noise. And then, obviously, when you want to speak or you are called on, please unmute and feel free. I just wanted to start off today, I guess, giving a background, especially to our panelists, about what grant program we're talking about today. The Indiana Department of Health here at the Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity was awarded the USDA 2020 Farm to School grant, and out of that was a mini grant program called the Healthy Food Service Grant. The schools that have joined us on today's call are schools from cohort A, or our first round of applications that went out last spring, soon after we were all sent home for the pandemic. We do have a cohort B application that is open right now, so if you know of any schools who would be interested in that, please feel free to forward them that opportunity. It lives currently on the Indiana Grown for Schools Network website. The grant program is really aimed at helping schools increase their capacity for scratch cooking and local procurement. It has included a training with Dan from the Whole Kids Foundation on healthy food service, knife skills, backgrounds about National School Lunch Program and child nutrition programs was included in that training. And we had funding available for each school for equipment to help them with that transition to a more scratch cooking model. This webinar and learning from others around the state about local procurement is part of our grant requirements. So we're really thankful that you guys have sat in on today's panel and are willing to share all of your knowledge. So next, I'd really like for everyone to just introduce themselves so we can all put names to faces and understand who is on our call today. So Nancy, why don't you go first?
Am I unmuted? First of all, I'm not. This is not my computer, so I'm just jumping in on somebody else's. I'm Nancy Millspa. I'm the Director of Food Service with Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation in Columbus, Indiana.
Perfect. Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Edwards. I'm the Director of Food Services for Franklin Community Schools, and that's in Franklin, Indiana.
Yes, which is on the south side of Indy, for those who might not know. Elaine.
Hi there, I'm Elaine Wilmont, and I am the Director of Food Services for Procurement School Corporation.
Yes, and Elaine's school is one of our grantees for our grant this year. Cynthia?
Oh, hello. I didn't realize that I was on the panel, but I'm Cynthia Harris. I am the procurement specialist for the Department of Education.
Yes, Cynthia is sitting with us today to answer any questions some of us might not be able to answer. So we'll call on her if we need her, or if we need correction, she is here to do that for us as well. Naima.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. My name is Naima Gardner-Rice. I'm the SNAP Ed and Nutrition Programs Director here at the Indiana Department of Health. And really excited to convene this panel. This is some content that we've been hearing from stakeholders for a long time that they would like for us to sort of compile and make available to them. So this is kind of step one in that process. So thank you so much for being here.
Becky.
Hi, my name is Becky Landis, and I am the School Food Service Director at Manchester Community Schools.
Thank you. Dominique?
Hello, my name is Dominique Nelson. I am the Food Service Director here at School City of East Chicago in Indiana.
And Dominique's school is also one of our grant recipients in Cohort A. Lindsay?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Boza. I am the director of the Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity here at the Department of Health. So to echo Naima's comments, very excited to have this panel and webinar come together.
Fantastic. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. If anyone has any questions, I will send out like some notes as well as the recording when we're done. So if you need another name or want to understand where someone is working, you should have 2 ways to access that information. So I guess I would love to start with our panel and just have you guys talk through some of your procurement journey, including maybe how many students you serve, just to ground everyone in what size of a food service you are running. And like I said, your local procurement journey, where did you start and where are you now? Nancy, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. We actually started in 2008, about 13 years ago. At the time, I don't know how many of you remember, but the economy just went in the tank, and we wanted to put some of the money that we were getting federally more towards some local people, if that was at all possible. There was not a lot of direction on procurement at the time anywhere. So we kind of got on the website and looked at Massachusetts Farm to School. They had a lot of stuff going on at that time. So we kind of used that as a basic guideline for us. About a year or so into it, the Department of Education allowed me to go to the USDA Produce University, which really helped us with figuring out how to do real procurement, what to ask for, what to look for, and to link that to food safety as well. So that was very helpful for us. We serve about 6,000 lunches a day. We do about 2,000 breakfasts a day. We have 18 schools, so that's kind of what size we are. And so for procurement for us, what that looked like at the time, I would just recommend everybody start very small. And that's what we did at the time. We just took a couple things that we knew grew locally that we wanted to put on the menu that we were using all the time. And an example of that was watermelon. Watermelon has just grown down the street from us. And so that was one of the first things we did. So that's just kind of how we got started on it. What is there? How much do you want me to go into?
Where are you today? What does your local
Okay.
procurement look like today?
So at first and to be honest, how we just got farmers and how we started is we just kind of got the idea, we've got a lot of farm stands in our area. So we have about 7 to 8 farm stands. And I thought, if they have enough that they can sell at those, maybe those are the farmers I can contact who might be able to be a big enough organization that they could feed a school our size. So that's how we just kind of picked who to contact with it. And we just basically sent out written quotes, and still do to this day. We just send out written quotes for the things that we're looking for, and put our specs on it, and ask for amounts and how, months they're available. Just really anything you want information wise on is what we put on those specs. And we started small. We probably started with 3 items. We started cantaloupe, watermelon, and tomatoes. And at this time, like our quotes that went out this year, we do apples, we do bell peppers, we do potatoes, tomatoes, cantaloupe, cucumber, strawberries, radishes sometimes, not all the time. And we do berries, blackberries and raspberries. We've got a area here that they grow those. I'm trying to do blueberries on a regular. I've been very irregular with my blueberries. And then cherry tomatoes, those have come in and out. So those are just some of the things we ask for when we're procuring.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth, do you want to give an overview of what local procurement has looked like there at Franklin?
Yes, so of note, this is actually, I think, my 3rd month here as the director at Franklin. So prior to this, I was actually working downtown for a smaller district, which is about the district I'm in here at Franklin now, I think is about 5 times larger. So I'm still learning, all the local things around here, which has been really fun. So I've called upon my experience in the past 7 years, though, on a smaller scale, kind of how I started, to work into what I'm doing here. So how I started with local procurement, I think, was with the Great Apple Crunch, which I think is what it's called, which is really fun, a little event we do every year. And so I thought that would be super fun to do in the schools. And so obviously apples are easy to find here in Indiana. And so that was one of my very first things that I procured from a local farm to promote to the students and do the Great Apple Crunch. So that's one of the first things that I did. Let's see here. So I was serving about 1,000 kids in our district prior, and now here at Franklin, I think it's about 5,000 is our enrollment here. So quite a bit bigger. What was the question? See, I'm off my train of thought. Where I am now, so a Piazza produce. Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to make. So yeah, my train of thought is lost. So Piazza is who we procure our produce through, and they've been a really fantastic partner through this whole process to find local produce. And so they've been a really good partner for me since they source so many local fruits and vegetables that are around here. So that's been something that I've really utilized a lot as well. And then now in Franklin here, the high school actually has a really cool ag program, and we are getting a lot of produce and sort of working on developing a program moving forward for specific things that we want to see grown to come to our cafeteria, which is super, super exciting. So this past summer, we've actually currently got spaghetti squash and butternut squash that I'm making recipes for, that we grew right here, these steps away from our cafeteria in the field behind our school, that now we are going to get to serve in our cafeteria. And it's really exciting to see that come full circle for our students. So that's kind of what we've got coming up ahead too.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Becky, would you like to share your local procurement journey there at Manchester?
Hi, yes. So my procurement journey has been long, as well as the others here. So there's 3 schools, and we're mainly a rural school. And my idea for pursuing farm to school is simply, again, like as has already been stated, that I feel like it's a community for our kids. And we are very small. We do not have industry here, so I can help out our local people who send their children to our school. So thinking of a whole community rather than just a segmented community. We have about 1,500 students here, and we do a breakfast, lunch, after-school snacks, summer meals, and our farm to school effort has been probably around about 15 years. For procurement, I belong to a co-op, and I do my dairy and bakery and the normal things that school food service directors do as far as that goes with the request, RFPs and all that. But in addition to that, then we also locally will use some Piazza produce. I do vegetables and fruits, pork and beef. The pork has actually been for the last 3 years. That has actually come as a collaboration with our 4-H. The 4-H donates those the pork to us, and I just have to pay the processing. So that's a very good situation for us. And the reason that happened actually is because what was happening in the 4-H fair was that there was no place for the animals to go when they were actually selling them. So that gives an outlet. They divide the pork between us and some local food pantries. So this year it was 5 pigs. That's a lot of sausage and bacon. We use the bacon in our baked beans and for some breakfast casseroles and things. And the local bacon is the best, just saying. And now, out of frustration, I'm pursuing something else that has been on the back burner for a very long time, and that was I'd like to explore chicken. Chickens, yeah, just a little bit different thing to think about. And the reason I'm really actively pursuing it is because of as all of you know, chicken is extremely hard to get. And so that's where I am now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Becky. And thank you, Nancy and Elizabeth, for sharing your journey. I love how your guys' journeys are all different and unique. One, how you started, and two, how you got to the point that you are now, and the different relationships, whether it's with the distributors or directly with our producers, how you bring local products into your school. Maybe we can go around the horn in the opposite direction this time. Becky, we can start with you. But same question for all of you would be, what are some of the largest barriers that you faced in your journey on local procurement? And you don't have to give a solution for all of them, but how did you work through some of those large barriers that you met to continue on in your local procurement journey?
Okay, so for me, as probably most directors, financially, it can be more expensive to procure locally, but it's been very helpful that the USDA has given us a larger reimbursement. We are doing the summer seamless option and, of course, the summer meals. And with that, allows a lot more freedom in that area as far as having funds that I can use for that. Also, and especially since I can't get items, it's really nice to be able to go out and procure them elsewhere than maybe just through my commodity program. One of the other things was when we first started, of course, and I think this probably a lot of people would say the same, is when you first start out, you aren't sure what farmer, who to contact, where you're going to go to get the food. Now they contact me. And so anybody who's starting this program, I say the best thing that you can do is market it. Let people know what you're doing so that they can come to you and you're not hunting them down.
Fantastic. Elizabeth?
So I would say one of the larger barriers I have experienced actually was not having a whole lot of administrative support actually in what I was doing and bringing into the school. So I was kind of surprised by that, really. So I get really excited by local food and obviously food service director. So I was really kind of bummed out to find that people didn't just share that excitement that I had. So one of the things that I learned I really had to focus a lot of time on was getting that buy-in from all the other parties who were also, kind of vital parts of making this whole thing a success. So really spending time with them and communicating before you even do anything, I would say communication with those people is really important. So building principles, and that can trickle down to building staff, and then of course food service staff as well. So I think as much communication as you can push out there and excitement and answer some of those questions up front really will help you in the long run a lot. And then what was the second part of that? To start small, I think that was something that Nancy mentioned additionally too, is not biting off more than you can chew maybe initially, which is something I tended to do when I first started, was like, oh my gosh, all this local stuff, let's do it. And then I was like, wow, okay, let's maybe take a step back and start a little bit slower. So that would be another, I don't know, barrier, but maybe just a kind of a tip for success is just to pick one or two things and work through that and then kind of expand, because you'll learn a lot from, just starting off small, and it'll be a lot more manageable that way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes, I know we share your excitement too. And I'm sure Becky and Nancy also share your excitement along with Elaine and Dominique. It's very exciting to get local products into schools, but I can understand how it could be very overwhelming. Nancy, would you like to share?
For both of those, I actually had the opposite, Becky, on mine. We actually found doing the farm to school was it was actually quite cost effective for us. One of the examples, we would, at the time, we were buying watermelons for $6 to $8 each, and we were getting them for $2. So we ended up saving a lot of money doing it. But that being said, you know, what our barrier is that we're in Indiana, you know, and so you have only a short growing season, and also in the time that I've been doing this, Becky's been doing this, we've had some of the worst droughts in season. We have some of the worst rainiest seasons, and so I think one of the big drawbacks to this, or I don't know if it's a drawback. I don't see any of this as a drawback, but to me, I feel like you really need to be flexible with the program and have a backup. Like the other gals use Piazza, we do as well. So, you know, you can't go into this, I don't feel, and all of your produce is local. It's not going to sustain yourself for the full year, at least not from who I'm buying from throughout a year. So that's something, is just to be flexible with it, have a backup plan for additional produce that you want to buy. The other thing that I would say is, and to tie in with the other speakers, is that, again, talking to your staff, getting them on board with this before you jump off on this, because this really is a passion project for me, but I have to understand that it's not a passion project for everyone. But how do you make it be that way? Well, I've always told my staff, you do that by making it easier for people. You know, for someone to embrace something, it's got to be easier for them. So that was like being able to do things with Chef Cindy and learn how to use, you know, sectionizers and things like that, that made it easier for our folks to prepare the food. We've done knife training skills. In fact, we're doing one in September to show them quick, easy ways to cut the melons and trim them quickly. Things like that. So you don't just like give them 50 watermelons and go, get that done by noon. You know, they're kind of like, ah. So, you know, you just go in and show them how to do the stuff quickly, how to, you know, work smarter, not harder. And those help get the buy-ins for you a little bit. Those are really the main two things with us. And I have to agree with Becky that we do, as it gets out there, as you go to local meetings, you start the farmers talk, right? And if you go to the farm, like we now have a farmers market. We didn't have that 13 years ago, but you go down there and you schmooze with these guys, and right, and then that's how you kind of meet some more people, and they start talking, and so then you do get calls, or people request all throughout the year. I will have people request, hey, I want to be on your bid, you know, hey, I want to do your price quotes, and you just keep that for your next season. So it will grow. Just start small and work. You know, work at it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Elizabeth, we can start with you. What types of procurement do you utilize the most for your program? We can go around the horn. I think this is fairly apparent, but if you could, if you have any, I guess, data to maybe help understand the split, if you use local producers for 20% of your procurement and Piazza for 80, whatever that split might be. If you could maybe talk us through, and if that has changed over the years, I'd love to know also that evolution and maybe what had sparked that evolution.
I don't know. I'd have to look at percentage. I think largely we are utilizing Piazza and local foods through them. I would say that's by far and away the largest percentage. And then kind of doing smaller things, kind of, to fill in the gaps. So like harvest of the month type things, or just, whatever we want to spotlight or focus on type of things, to just kind of be more, that's kind of what I'm doing versus, I think Cindy said, it's kind of difficult to count on local stuff, especially maybe in Indiana and the Midwest, just like for the, a large chunk of stuff for the year. So for me, I tend to go through Piazza for most of my stuff, which I feel like they have a great selection of local items and seasonal availability, and then kind of do, pick and choose like whatever seasonal, like harvest stuff that I can get from local producers to do harvest of the month type things. So that's probably my main one. And then DoD Fresh is another great area. If people are not aware of that, I think they make it super, super easy to get local stuff, and that's been really, really good to do as well. So those are probably my two DoD Fresh, Piazza, the biggest one, and then just kind of local stuff to where I can find seasonal stuff to do fun things with. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Nancy?
I'm sort of like a cycle person, and so I would have to say, we always say our farm to school is until, through October, through farm to school month. That's generally when the season is for the type of produce that I'm using. And so during this time, I would say, 90% of my produce comes from Piazza, and then a 10% from actual growers in my community. Then I swing into, as our farmers here kind of end in their harvest, then we pick up the DoD Fresh, and that's usually in Octoberish, and we kind of carry that on out into the spring, in addition with the Piazza at that time. One thing that we are a little bit lucky with, I guess, at our district is we, through a grant through our hospital, asked for a flash freezer, and it is a shock freezer, not just a flash freezer. So it's a shock freezer, and that allows us to. That's one of the things we did to kind of overcome one of the, the problem with having a short growing season, that allows us to extend some of our produce into longer seasons for the kids. You do have to be careful, because the way we package things would not be okay with the health department, so we don't do that. So, but things like berries have a high acid content, and the way that we're packaging them is safe for the students, and we can do flash freezing. So when summer is going on, and we do summer school feeding as well. Some of my extra staff at that time can freeze produce for the students to use later into the school year. So that helps us extend the season a little bit.
Fantastic. Yes, I love to see extended use out of our products. The Small Farms Conference, back the last time it happened, I guess, in 2019, the entire meal served in the month of March here in Indiana was locally procured, but like to Nancy's point, procured when the products were in season and they were flash frozen and then thawed and made into meals for all of us, which was really fun and exciting. But again, takes a lot of planning too, to think about what you need and to freeze it and to have that ability. So that's really exciting that you guys have that piece of equipment there. Becky, would you like to talk about your procurement percentages?
Percentages vary, obviously, because of the seasons. And by the way, Nancy, I'm a little jealous. I think that's also on my bucket list, is a flash freezer.
It's my dream.
So maybe after chicken.
Yeah.
So, obviously, since we do some proteins, we're doing biscuits and gravy and different things for breakfast in our schools, especially in the winter. It is a very popular item. I shouldn't say biscuit, it's biscuit and gravy. But that's okay. They still eat it. And so percentage-wise, it's really, I don't know. It's pieces of things here and there. Obviously, I don't use the locally procured beef really to put in some of our soups and things. That's more as a hamburger patty, more where they can really notice that the kids can notice a difference. Yeah, so I'm sorry I don't really have a percentage that I can say right off the top of my head. Like tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and all that in season, it's all of them. I mean, we at the high school do 70 pints of cherry tomatoes a week that go into our prepackaged salads, or if we have salad on the line. So it just depends on what's in season.
And when things are out of season, do you rely on your distributor?
Yeah, we do.
Fantastic. Okay, and I think go ahead.
Sorry, Megan. I just remembered. You asked. So we do. The person that we do purchase, the farmer we do purchase our vegetables, has a high tunnel greenhouse. Anybody familiar with that? They typically have fresh vegetables through. I can pretty much plan on it till about Thanksgiving, and then we can start in with a few limited things in about March, probably. So sorry, Megan.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much. Last question before I'd love to allow people some time to ask some questions about maybe what they're going through or what they're hoping for of you guys. But for those of you who do work directly with producers, Nancy, I think you've talked about this. So Becky, maybe we can start with you, and Nancy, you can fill in with your experience. But how did you begin to foster your relationships? I know that marketing your program is really important and that people talk, but how did you really get start those relationships and then build them into these sustained relationships that you have now?
Okay, yes. Well, I come from a small community and people talk in all kinds of ways, good and bad. So you just have to take both of them together, however it is. But when we first started a couple years ago, I was actually a kitchen manager, not a director. And it was really a collaboration between the business manager who wanted to see something like this happen and a person who was getting started in selling like to farmers markets, and noticed that in August there was a reduction in people wanting his produce, and thought, aha, the reason there is the kids have all went back to school. So how about if I sell to schools? We'll sell the kids that way. And so we did a one-day local event. And again, I cannot stress enough, as well as Elizabeth and Nancy have pointed out, start small. I mean, we literally started with 1 or 2 items. And back in the days of salad bars, you know, there might be some local carrots on there and local radish, not too many times because that's not their favorite, but some local greens, whatever, peppers, cucumbers, any of those things. That's where it started and has just blossomed from there, because when people hear you say local, they say that you serve local, they're like, hey, I think maybe I could do that, especially in a place that does not have a lot of industry and we don't have a lot of outlet for those kinds of items.
Fantastic. What a unique story, and such a great observation from that producer. I even noticed at the farmers market this week, there's far less people now that school has started and really ramped up around the state. Nancy, do you have anything that you want to add? And then Elizabeth, you can bring us home.
Again, just ours were local farmers in our area that I looked for that they were selling at stands and had a number. So I actually just put my quotes together, explained what we were doing in a letter, and a couple of the qualifiers at the time were I needed them to be able to accept a PO, and I needed them to be able to deliver it to my main warehouse here. And so that dropped off a few, so, but I just sent the quotes out, and whoever answered back, that's who we started dealing with. So, I sent over 3 quotes. And so if I only got really one good response, then I kind of started with them, and he did accept a PO, and to be fair, one of the main reasons that we ended up going with apples is I was at Bloomington eating at a restaurant and just reading through a magazine while I was waiting to get served. And they had this big article about IU using AppleWorks to provide the apples for their, for the kids there. And I was thinking, well, for goodness sake, they're pretty close to me. And if they've got enough that they can do the IU kids, they could surely feed 5,000 kids over here. And so that's how we, contacted them. And so just, read things, talk to people, things like this, where you get names of other people and you can say, oh, Becky, I'm interested. I've never done meat. Let me talk to you. And who's your vendor? And it's just networking. I would really encourage you to do that. And just open your mouth and talk to people. Go ask them stuff and find out and then pursue it.
Yep, I think that's, to bring it home, I think that's something that I would definitely say too, is just like promote your program and talk about all the farm to school and local stuff that you're doing, because people will see that and then they'll suggest, oh gosh, I saw, you had whatever on your salad bar that was labeled as farm to school. Hey, I know a farmer who, whatever, and things happen that way. So definitely promote your program and promote what you are doing that's farm to school, and connections will happen that way. When I first started downtown Indianapolis, I think I just started asking, some of the fellow food service directors that I knew, hey, what are you doing for local, produce? Where are you sourcing from? Who are you going to? And just kind of started that way, and seeing what kind of contacts they had. And then the Piazza Food Show, I think it's called a food show, that they used to do. I don't know if they're doing it anymore. It was an every other year thing they did at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. It was a lot of fun too. And I always got a lot of ideas from them. They had some vendors, like fruit and vegetable produce vendors come that I had never heard of before or never met before. And so that was a good sort of resource for me too, to think outside the box and meet some additional farmers and producers that I wouldn't normally have ever probably thought of. One of them was turnips. So so fun things like that. Just go, like Nancy said, get out there, talk to people. Networking is really important, and promote what you're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you guys all so much for taking the time to do this. We have about 19 minutes left of our hour block, reserved block. I would love to allow anybody on the call to unmute and ask some questions of our panelists or have any comments for our panelists. We'll use the next 19 minutes to do so.
Hi, this is Cindy. I just have a question for you guys. I'm just curious, as I was listening to you guys, I know a lot of the schools that's not part of Farm to Schools are having a lot of issues with supply chain issues and different things of that nature. And because you guys use, Farm to Schools with patronizing local farmers, do you see that might be a benefit to you, because you don't have to worry about deliveries and different things of that nature far out? So I just was curious on if that had an impact of anything, or is that a positive that you see on being on the program?
I'll be happy to answer because you just heard my chicken story. Yes, absolutely. It seems to me that some of the supply chain issues from the things that I've been listening to, and so I feel like that if I can cut that distribution piece at least much smaller, then I have much more likelihood of getting it. I don't know how the chicken story is going to turn out, but I think it's, ask me in a month or so when I finally get everything put together and I can actually menu it. I'm working on some menu ideas now, and I'll need to do some staff training as well. But I do think that it is going to be part of our answer, at least for a while.
This is Elaine. I have a question on the meat. We have a few local hog farmers, and I touched base with a couple of them to see about the processing. And I wondered if you have bid specs or forms that you could share, what kind of contracts you do with them, because one of the farmers was telling me how hard it was to get into the processing right now. And so they make their appointments way ahead of time, and they wondered if we wanted to make our appointments or if they wanted to make the appointments. And so I just wondered if you could maybe give me a little more information on the meat part of it.
I can repeat that. Elaine, tell me if I get this wrong. I think we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. But okay. Elaine's question is about the meat part of procurement, and she's talking about the specs and what might be in your specs, especially with distributors, or sorry, not with distributors, with processors, because they schedule out appointments so far in advance. And so she's really interested in the meat part and how you might manage that part of the supply chain. Did I get that semi-correct, Elaine?
Yeah, I think so. I want to know do they include the processing with the producer part of it, or do they do them separately? And do they have bid specs and forms that I could copy?
Perfect. Yes, we heard you a little bit better that time. Thank you.
Okay, so yes and no. It a little bit depends. On most of the ground beef and pork and those kinds of things. The pork that's donated to me, I realize where that also comes from. That is donated to us, so I'm just paying for the the processing of that, and I pick that up and I have the space that I can store that in bulk. I do tell them how I expect it to be and that I need it for the freezer and that it has to be this way. It does need to come from a state inspected facility. I do not accept any home processing at all. And also I do tell them how I want it done and no fillers and what size of packages. And I do write that in my specs when I send that out for pork. For chicken, I'm actually going through somebody who is already established, who is hopefully, I'll just even say who it is. I'm looking into Fisher Farms, who will be able to deliver via Piazza Produce because they have an agreement with them. So again, I'll know a little bit more about that in a month, how that journey is going to look, hopefully. And yeah, that's pretty much our protein, what we do for proteins. Does that help you out?
Yeah, I think so. And would you be willing to share what your quotes are or your specs that you send out?
Yes, I'm willing to share. They're fairly basic. One of the things that I do stress, because I would consider us for most of the things to be hyper local. I know individually each and every farmer that I'm usually procuring from, because it is really truly around our community. It's neighbors and school teachers and friends and whoever that happens to be. I'm happy to share those specs, but I also want to stress that it's a really good idea for you to know where you're getting it for the food safety portion. And again, it has to be from a USDA, or not USDA, but a state inspected facility for me.
Elaine, I'd also just share that the network, including with Becky's help and some examples both from Becky and from Nancy, we will have a local procurement toolkit that will be coming out on October 1st, and Becky and Nancy have been nice enough to share some of their documents that they use in their local procurement journey. You can see some sample documents that Becky uses with all of the specs. They're kind of template format, so like insert name here, blah, blah, blah. But you can kind of see the different ways that Becky has asked for her beef to be packaged, or for her vegetables, what size or how much or in what delivery manners, as well as some scoring sheets, because we know that that's a vital part of this local procurement process, is making sure that price is our #1 indicator on our scoring sheet. So you can kind of see with blacked out names of vendors how different people go through the process of scoring to get what vendor comes out on top for procurement. So I hope that come October 1st, that might also fill a space for you.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thank you very much.
Yes, not a problem. Elizabeth or Nancy, do you guys have anything to add to either of these questions? Either Cindy's question about supply chain issues, and if you believe farm to school kind of helps you overcome some of those, at least at the current moment, or anything about meat or protein procurement?
I really don't. I'm not doing any proteins, and that seems to be where we're having trouble with the supply chain at this stage. But as far as the fruits and vegetables, obviously the less distance it has to travel, I think is better for the kids, it's better for us, it's better for everybody. And we are very fortunate to have a warehouse, and we also have 2 guys on a delivery team for us for that warehouse. So again, if the farmers had any trouble with getting the food to us, we could go to the farm and pick it up, and but we don't like to. That's just part of the fun of them bringing it, and
yes,
and they feel involved doing that. So
yes.
I think, well, I wish that it was more of a solution, I guess, but the way kind of we're using it right now, and I think, as she just said, chicken is a huge issue, and so is bread, strangely for us. And so those are 2 things that we really do a whole lot of local procurement for. So unfortunately, that's not solving really a huge, it's not really much help for us. Because we need to be able to obviously consistently count on something, and so we're just not quite there yet in the local process of having something fill that need regularly over and over. I wish that we we were there right now, I think that would be a huge help for the supply chain issues we're experiencing. But yeah, so to answer Cynthia's question, it's not really a solution. I wish it were. Maybe in the future, you know, we can work out something and move in that direction for sure. So.
Thank you, guys. Does anyone else have any questions or comments they'd like to share?
I just want to say that I thank you guys for your time as well as just your feedback in this webinar. It's been very helpful. And I too am certainly going to be looking for a shock freezer, because that was that was something that it was just really exciting to hear about. And I'm like, man, why didn't I think about that? That's a good idea.
They're
So
pretty cool.
I really thank you guys for your time today.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. If we don't have any more questions or comments, we can end this early. I just wanted to echo Dominique's thanks. This has been super great, and I think will definitely help more than just the people who are on this call today. Thank you also, everyone, for allowing us to record this so it can be shared with other people or our next cohort of grantees so that they have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the local procurement process here in Indiana and what you guys all have gone through to get to the point that you are, all the different paths that you guys have taken. I think the diversity of our panelists today was really helpful and will be helpful to other school districts in Indiana that are trying to look for someone who's similar to them as an example of ways that they can start local procurement or do farm to school programming in their district. So one huge heartfelt thanks from me and the rest of the Indiana Ground for Schools Network. It's been such a pleasure to have you guys all together today.